I'm Herminia. It was a video call that changed everything. One evening, just as I was leaving work, my phone rang. An unknown number popped up on the screen. Curiosity got the better of me, and I answered. There on the screen was my mother, older and thinner than I remembered. Her makeup was gone, and her posture was slumped in a way I'd never seen. My father stood beside her, looking like pride had finally become too heavy a burden to carry. And on the edge of the sofa in what was clearly not their old house, sat my twin sister, silent, without her perfect hair or smugness. My mother started crying, real crying, not the theatrical kind she used to put on for sympathy. She said my name like she'd exhausted all other options. She told me they'd made terrible mistakes, that they'd lost the house, that my sister and her husband were separating, and that my father's career was in shambles. Then she said the words I'd waited a lifetime to hear: we were wrong. But I wasn't satisfied. I asked, wrong about what? She closed her eyes, as if the answer physically pained her. Wrong about you. Wrong about your worth. Wrong about how we treated you. Wrong about choosing appearances over fairness. It was then that I felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd spent so long yearning for their approval, for them to see me as an equal. But now, as I looked at them, I realized that their apology came too late. Let me take you back to the beginning. My sister and I are twins, but that's where the similarities end. She was the life of the party, always the center of attention. People noticed her the moment she walked into a room. She was loud, charming, and had a knack for making adults laugh. I, on the other hand, was quieter. I liked having a plan, a routine. I knew where I stood, and I was content with that. Our parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were well-to-do. They owned a chain of high-end boutiques in the city. But they had a clear favorite, and it wasn't me. My mother, a vain and status-conscious woman, always thought I was too serious. My father, a man obsessed with image and success, labeled me difficult whenever I questioned the double standards in our house. My sister could get away with anything. If she made a mess, it was because she was full of spirit. But if I made the slightest mistake, I was punished. At birthday parties, she got the bigger cake because she loved the attention. At school events, my mother would miss my academic achievements but never failed to attend my sister's mediocre performances. When we were teenagers, my grandparents started a wedding fund for us. It was supposed to be a fair gift, something to help us start our futures. My grandmother held my hand and said, "No matter what, this is yours." I held on to those words for years. Even when I started working part-time in high school, I added to the fund. Every dollar was a symbol of my hard work, time and effort that no one had forced me to give. As we grew older, the difference between my sister and me became even more apparent. I worked hard through college. I got scholarships, did internships, and took on jobs that taught me how to manage complex schedules. I ended up in the wedding and event planning business because I was good under pressure and great at solving problems before anyone even noticed there was an issue. My sister, on the other hand, was always chasing the next big thing. She tried fitness coaching, then lifestyle blogging, and even social media influencing, but nothing lasted. Yet, my parents always thought she was on the verge of greatness. Every time she failed, they saw it as potential. Every time I succeeded, they saw it as a flaw. I met my fiancé, Leo, at a venue walk-through. There was a storm during a rehearsal dinner, and the power went out. Everyone was in a panic, but Leo, an architect consulting on the venue's restoration, was calmer than I was. We ended up laughing in a dark hallway over emergency candles and ruined seating charts. He was kind, thoughtful, and a good listener. We dated for 2 years before talking seriously about marriage. Our approach was different from what I'd grown up with. We focused on what mattered: the budget, the guest list, and the real meaning of our wedding. Around the same time, my sister announced her engagement to Victor, a wealthy corporate lawyer with a prestigious family background. My parents went wild. It was like she'd married into royalty. Overnight, every conversation was about the wedding, the venue, the menu, the designer dress. They wanted it to be perfect because they thought it would open doors for them, for their social status. My mother started calling me more often, not to ask how I was, but to pick my brain about vendors, contracts, and timelines. I should have said no, but I was so used to being useful, to seeking their approval. So I helped. I connected them to a reliable venue rep, flagged a bad clause in a contract, and told them what realistic costs were. My mother thanked me as if she was doing me a favor, and my sister barely acknowledged my help. Then came the fateful dinner. My mother invited me for what she called a small planning dinner. I almost didn't go, but Leo encouraged me to try to keep the peace. I went, carrying a bottle of wine and a glimmer of hope that this time, they'd treat me like a decent human being. The dinner started like any other family gathering, full of pretense. My sister was glowing, and my mother was showing off binders and swatches as if she was running a campaign. My father was talking about numbers in a vague, smug way. After half an hour of listening, my mother started discussing a last-minute upgrade to the venue package. It included more flowers, better lighting, and a luxury transportation option that no one really needed. I asked gently, if you're spending this much, what does it mean for the rest of the wedding fund? The room went silent. My mother stopped moving, my sister looked down at her plate, and my father cleared his throat. I knew then that something was wrong, but I didn't know how bad it was. I asked more directly, what does it mean for my share? My mother put down her fork and gave me that familiar look, the one that said I was about to be punished for ruining her perfect vision. She said casually, there's no your share anymore. Most of it went into your sister's wedding. I stared at her in disbelief. What about the money I put in? I asked. She shrugged and said, we all contribute to the family, Herminia. I asked the question that made her smile. So, you spent my grandparents' money and my money on her and never planned to tell me? She leaned back, crossed her arms, and laughed cruelly. Gold and dirt are not the same. Your sister is marrying into a world where looks matter. That investment makes sense. You and Leo are having a small, tasteful wedding. You don't need the same help. My sister clapped, as if it was the funniest thing in the world. In that moment, something inside me died. I didn't cry or argue. I just stood up, picked up my bag, keys, and coat, and walked out. Once in my car, I didn't break down. Instead, I opened my laptop. I knew that in their rush to create a luxury wedding they couldn't afford, they'd relied on my professional connections more than they realized. I sent emails and made calls to the vendors, informing them that I was withdrawing my support. I made it clear that I wasn't responsible for any outstanding balances and that they shouldn't rely on my name or reputation. By the time I got home, I had a few missed calls. By sunrise, there were over 70. My mother left voicemails, going from outrage to panic. My sister was also desperate, accusing me of ruining her wedding out of bitterness. I stared at my phone for a long time before typing, "Why are you baking a piece of dirt?" Then I turned it off and went to sleep. When I woke up, I expected to feel guilty, but all I felt was relief. I realized that I didn't have to keep sacrificing myself for a family that didn't value me. Over the next few days, I learned that the wedding had hit a rough patch. My parents had to scramble to keep it going. My father liquidated part of an account, and my mother borrowed from relatives she usually looked down on. My sister had to cut some decorative extras. A few months after the wedding, the cracks started to show. My sister's marriage was in trouble. Victor was always busy, and he started criticizing her spending and her family's instability. My father's financial situation was also falling apart. He borrowed money from client social circles to cover the wedding expenses, and his professional credibility took a hit. My mother's boutique started missing payments, and her social life suffered. They started reaching out to me again. My mother sent me a letter, full of half-truths and excuses. She didn't mention stealing my money or calling me dirt. A week later, my sister called, asking for help with my mother's boutique. She still saw me as a tool, not a sister. I told her no, and she got angry, accusing me of enjoying their suffering. Not long after, I heard that my parents were selling their house. Debt was strangling them. The house where I'd spent years being overlooked was now just another casualty of their obsession with image. Leo found me sitting in our kitchen, lost in thought. He asked if I was okay. I told him I didn't know how I felt. There was no sense of triumph, just a sadness for the fact that they'd destroyed their own lives to protect their pride. Leo said something I'll never forget: some people would rather lose everything than admit they were wrong to the one person they treated the worst. He was right. My family's downfall wasn't because I'd abandoned them, it was because of their own choices. In the end, I married Leo beside a quiet lake. It was a small, peaceful wedding, full of people who truly loved and supported us. As I walked towards Leo, I didn't think about what my family had taken from me. I thought about what they couldn't take away: my peace, my judgment, and my ability to love without humiliation. This experience taught me that favoritism is a poison that affects everyone. It damages the neglected child and hollows out the favored one. It makes parents confuse control with care and image with success. And for the overlooked child, healing begins when you stop begging for fairness from those who profit from your silence. Family should be a place of dignity, not a place where you lose it. Love without respect is not love, and forgiveness without change is not reconciliation. Protecting my peace from those who only value me when they need me is not cruelty, it's self-respect.